Goodman back again in the eDraft.com studios with this year's first edition of a Prospect a Day breakdown. Today, breaking down TCU wideout Josh Doctson. Now, in a class with no real blue chip, can't miss wideouts like your AJ Greens or Julio Jones, it's Ole Miss's Laquan Treadwell who seems to be leading the pack of his peers as the top dog and wideout in this year's class and should be selected in the top 10 picks if he can solidify his solid weight and frame in combination with a good 40 time. However, depending on what your offense lacks and needs in a wideout, TCU's Josh Doctson may not be far behind. And while he lacks some refinement in his routes thanks to the Big 12 playbook and may not separate with his defender as well as you'd like, there's one part of Doxson's game that I can promise you will transition into the NFL on day one, and it's something that all 32 teams would welcome with open arms in their offensive arsenal. Let's jump to the tape. I'll show you what I mean. The first thing I noticed when cutting up Doxson's tape is how often he was able to win without running precise routes or being very attentive to detail. Thanks to the lackluster defensive back play and watered-down techniques in the Big 12 in general, Doctson was able to produce at a high level without having to be an expert at running routes. Not only did I see a trimmed-up route tree Doctson ran at TCU, but even some of the more vanilla routes that were asked of him were very rounded out and showed a trouble for a clean and precise technique in and out of his cuts. Hey, maybe it's because I was spoiled with breaking down guys like Amari Cooper last year, but as you can see, Doctson struggles getting out of his breaks on a dime and rounds his routes off way too much. Even here on a simple out route that converted on third down, Doctson starts his break at the 30-yard line but doesn't get out of his break cleanly with his frame to the quarterback till the 32.5. May not sound like much, but in the NFL, giving up 2.5 yards on just a 6-yard route isn't exactly efficient against the most athletic and instinctual cornerbacks Doctson's ever faced. Another example here against West Virginia, while the cornerback does a good job of squeezing Doctson inside and forcing his hand, Doctson cheats far too early and shows off his route well in advance to him making his eventual break inside. Again, cheating nearly 3 yards on an 8-yard route is giving the defensive backs in the NFL far too much help and could be a steep learning curve for Josh Doctson. Now, maybe you want to say I'm nitpicking, as I've only been honing in on Doxson's lack of precise or polished route running that will certainly need refinement, but it isn't all bad or hopeless by any means, as Doctson shows the understanding and ability to find the clear and clean soft spot in zone coverage for his quarterback, as well as push cornerbacks and his defender upfield before making his eventual cut. On top of that, Doctson also gives his quarterback a huge catch radius and throwing window thanks to that lanky frame and long arms on routes like quick slants. Doctson shows outstanding effort at anything thrown in his vicinity, often bailing out his quarterback on a poorly thrown ball, showing an aggressiveness and full effort to drive back to the ball with his entire body on underthrown passes, and Doctson's solid field presence when tiptoeing the sidelines. Okay, so he runs average routes in a limited route tree, but he shows a good catch radius and a good tall frame, often bailing out his quarterback. Is that all I'm getting with Josh Doctson? Not even close. This is when things are about to get real. Warning, the footage I'm about to show you is not suitable for children and should not be seen by defensive backs unless they are on proper medication. Please ask a doctor if Josh Doctson is right for you. The player you're drafting in Doctson brings to the table an outstanding leaping ability that resembles an almost rubber-like bounce or spring in his jump. Mix that with arguably the best ball skills in the class through proper concentration and ball tracking, and Doctson is an absolute nightmare to cover when the ball is in the air. Even when Doctson can't haul it in, his elite combination of jumping ability, long arms, and reach are always on display. While plenty of great athletes at the position have shown great hops and ball tracking and would make Doctson a fine red zone weapon, it's the third part of Doxson's game that brings it all together, making him a big play threat no matter the coverage, and that is his strong, nearly magnetic-like hands. Doctson makes plucking the ball out of the air look easy and natural time and time again, and forces defenders to be in great position just to have a chance at knocking the ball away. Whether it's boxing out his defender for a jump ball or separating downfield with his arm length here, Doctson just understands how to win and beat his opponent by finding a way to come down with the ball and finish the catch. But I've also noticed Doctson uses a specific and unique strategy to create the separation needed and to gain the proper ball angle when on the sideline, which is this shoulder dip. Something so small and subtle, but Doctson has mastered and allows him to gain leverage while confusing and slowing down his defender just enough to put himself in the best position to attack the ball. His ball skills alone remind me a lot of Devontae Parker last year with outstanding body control and ability to track the ball with those long, lanky arms. However, Parker, along with his peers Kevin White and Amari Cooper, all showed their ability to be dangerous and explosive with the ball in their hands. But while Doctson runs hard, he will never be a playmaker in that area like last year's Big Three due to his lack of agility, make defenders miss, and vision in the open field. So, while the Big Three last year, Amari Cooper, Kevin White, and Devontae Parker, all went in the first 15 picks, they were all threats both with the ball in the air and the ball in their hands. Compared to them, you could argue Doctson is more of a one-dimensional wideout or one-trick pony, but hard to argue the strengths and skill sets he brings to the table aren't downright special. His route running is still a work in progress, but so are many other receivers that come into the league as rookies. It's just why I don't think Doctson will have a hard time fitting in and being productive right away. Because of his weaknesses, some have Doctson pegged as a second-round talent overall from top to bottom, but in a league that craves mismatches, Doctson's strengths as a jump ball playmaker will outweigh his downsides early on and will be too enticing as a player that will pose as a consistent threat in one-on-one coverage, exactly why I think Doctson will hear his name called in round one. In fact, if Doctson can exceed expectations at the combine, specifically with a good 40 time, then he will close the gap, in my estimation, between himself and the number one wideout as of now, Laquan Treadwell, forcing teams to view the two as 1 and 1A. Which would mean likely Doctson would be gone by the time the Vikings were on the clock at pick 23, as teams like the Los Angeles Rams, Detroit Lions, and Buffalo Bills all take a serious hard look at Josh Doctson. Okay, so who's next? You tell me which big name prospect you want me to break down next. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for plenty more draft coverage here on eDraft's YouTube page and eDraft.com. For everybody at eDraft.com, I'm Luke Inman, signing out.